Okay. So, oh, my man, let me give you this. I reviewed that. Yeah, so maybe you want to do that again if you get the chance. Okay. Yeah, I missed this. Yeah, you understand it now. Yeah, right. All right. Oh, the last thing. What should be high? Okay, because when you read the question, there was a due to the top secret, right? Yeah, that might be exposed during the assessment confidentiality will be required. Okay. Yeah. So you have to adjust it. If it is moderate already, okay, you may adjust. Okay. Yeah. So that's gonna affect the whole baseline. Yeah. So Ernest. Yes, sir. How far? That's Gracie. She's coming? Yes. She is. Okay. All right. So let's just. All right. So Nessus scan. So as part of the ANA process, the step 4 requires that after you do your manual control testing, you know what we did last week, the way you have your artifact, you ask for the evidence from the system admins, and then you review and make sure the control is doing what it said it's doing. That is the manual part of it, right? So now they want to run the vulnerability scan. That is an automated part of it that is based on application and software. So if for the most part, you as a human, you missed some checks on the controls, the system, the automated system will not miss that. So that's the idea. The idea is after we do our manual checks, our manual control testing, we're going to use the Nessus vulnerability scan. So the Nessus vulnerability, just as the name suggests, the vulnerability scan, we are scanning for what? Vulnerability in the system. And vulnerabilities are what? Weakness. Any weakness in the system is what you aim at discovering with the tool. So the tool, they use something we call the plugins. So the plugin is a programming language that is based on Nessus scripting language or something like that. That's where they use, it's just like a code, right? To go look for specific holes in the system. If that whole script matches any of these holes that the script is supposed to look for, it will flag it as being vulnerable to that system. I mean, to that malicious code. All right, so let's go with the definition real quick. It says this defines system vulnerabilities as a flaw or weakness in the system, security procedure, design, implementation, or internal controls that could be taken or exploited and results in the security breach or violation of the system security policy. So pretty much saying that anything that a hacker or a bad guy can exploit and get access to your system without authorization is a flaw or a weakness, right? So we have this standard ISO 27005 defines system vulnerability. So NIST, remember this is just the federal government, right? The United States federal government. ISO, whenever you see ISO standard, it is an international organization standard. Like the World Bank, the United Nations, the International Monetary Fund, and all those IFC, International Finance Committee, those, or Finance Commission, whatever they call it, those are not United States government. So they don't follow the NIST. Remember, NIST is a policy, it's a framework, right? I mean, it's a policy that regulation. But the ISO standard is standard for all the international organizations. World Bank is not part of the federal government. It's an international organization, right? So they're not required or they're not mandated to follow NIST. They're mandated to follow the ISO. ISO stands for International Standard Organization, right? All right. So it says that ISO defines system vulnerability as a weakness of an asset or group of assets that can be exploited by one or more threats, right? That's how they define it. Pretty much saying the same thing, but they have a different threat. So vulnerability management, identifying, classifying, remediating, and mitigating vulnerabilities. That is what we call management. You're not going to just identify it and leave it like that. You're identify, you classify, you remediate, and then you mitigate. Right? That is, you have managed. Right. So if I say vulnerability assessment based on our second week of class, if I say vulnerability assessment, it means I'm going to identify and classify, nothing else, right? I'm just assessing the vulnerability. I'm not going to add any remediation. Remember that? But when we say management, we're not going to just identify and classify. We are going to recommend what remediation and mitigation. That is why it's called the management. So identification and classification are done using the vulnerability scanner. In order for you to identify and classify the vulnerabilities, you're going to use a tool called, the generic name is vulnerability scanner. We have multiple vulnerability scanners out there. We have Nessus, we're going to use Nessus today. We have Nexpose, we have Web Inspect, we have DB Protect, we have Zap. We have multiple vulnerability scanners out there, right? But for the most part, the most popular one is the Nessus. That's where most people use, right? Nexpose is gaining some grounds now because Nexpose has a lot of graphics, the dashboarding and everything is very catchy to the eyes. That's why a lot of people are moving to Nexpose now. Well, some people say Nexpose or some even call it Nexpose. So whatever, I think it's a French company or something, but they call it, this is how they spell it. Next. So Nexpose or Nexpose, however you want to call it, but this is another version of a vulnerability scan. All right. So common type of vulnerability scan, just like you said, we have that. We have Nmap, we have Web Inspect, we have Zap, Z-Tag, Proxy by OWASP. Those are all type of vulnerability scans. So during the interview, they might ask you, what vulnerability scan have you used before? So the aim of this session, this class, is to expose you to Nessus. So at least when they ask you, you're not just going to read and tell them that, oh, I've used Nessus before, without you actually playing with the tool. So that's why we decided to download the free version that has 16 IPs. You can use that. You know exactly what the plugin means. So when you go to the interview, you actually have you used the Nessus vulnerability scan before. You can confidently say yes, right? But you can be, you can also just put it in a nice way that, okay, I have never used a vulnerability scan within the professional environment, but I know how to run vulnerability scan because I run vulnerability scan on my home networks and I access all my gadgets for vulnerabilities. If there's anything that needs to be updated, I do, but I've never had a chance to do it on the professional level, but I know. So the point is, you're trying to tell the interviewer that, look, I know what a vulnerability scan is, I'm using it, but I've never used it on a professional setting before, right? So that will give them some confidence that, okay, this guy, he knows what vulnerability scan is. So they're going to start asking you questions. So how did you run it? How did you do this? And then you can tell them exactly what you do. They want to bring you in because it's like, you know it because you've been using it on your home network, right? So that's the aim of this session. Put it on your computer, run it on your home networks and see if you have any vulnerability. Try to see how you do the review and stuff like that so you can talk it during the interview. And that's what the interviewers want to see. If they can tell them that you've done it before and you know how to use it, it's a plus for you, right? Okay. All right, so common vulnerabilities. They're gonna ask you, so if you run your vulnerability scan on your network, what are you looking for? What are some of the things that you're looking for as a vulnerability, as a common vulnerability? So a flaw or weakness which someone can exploit because some examples are misconfigurations. What is misconfiguration? Your tool can tell you because Nexus is so it has inbuilt capability if you have a weak password. So let's say in one of your home computer, the password for that computer is just maybe password, right? I don't know if the home version does that, but the professional version that they charge you money for, if you have a weak password like password, the scan can actually figure that password out because it uses what? The word list that I told you about, like the common password on the internet. Using the word list and do a brute force on your system. If they can find your password within the word list, then it will tell you that your password is weak. So that's what we call the brute force attack. Or no, not the brute force. Yeah, they call it a dictionary attack because it uses a standardized web-based test for that. So if you have a misconfiguration, what are some of the examples of misconfiguration? We have weak passwords, unvalidated input. So the unvalidated input is what leads to cross-site scripting, right? At the professional level or the organizational level. If you have a website that requires you to put a password or username, or any website that requires you to put on like a comment, right? Any website that you can go and start typing some input into the system, there must be something we call the input validation. Input validation is if the comment section only requires you to put English letters like A to Z, any special characters will be flagged as an error. That's what we call the input validation, right? They will tell the system that this field only requires letters like A to Z combination, fine. But anytime you introduce a special character like at, like an exclamation sign, like all these asterisks and stuff like that, this thing will flag you as an error. That's what we call the input validation. So if they don't want you to put anything besides what they determine that they want, if they want you to write, let's say, I don't know if you guys pay attention, there are some websites when you go in there and they ask you, how many years have you lived in this particular address? And then you type 2, like TWO, it will flag you as error. But if you put the number 2, it will accept it because the system has been programmed to accept only numbers. Even though 2 is 2, right? But it's English, it's going to reject it. Has to accept just numbers. So that's what we call the input validation. You validate whatever input you put it in there before it gets processed. So some of the misconfigurations are what? Unvalidated input. If you don't validate your input, I need you to enter the number 2. But the system is so wide open, I don't put any input validation. You type and the system still accepts it. There's no input validation, which means anybody can put whatever they want. And that is the basis of what we call, or what causes the cross-site scripting and the SQL injection. That's how people take over a website and then hack into websites, because you don't have input validation. If you want to get numbers, only numbers, nothing else. If you want to get alphabet, only alphabet. But if you want to get the combo, alphanumeric, that is also allowed. And then you can filter out the special characters. So nobody can enter any special characters. All right, so moving on. We have something we call the backdoor created by admins or the professional environment, because people don't like going back to work after their 9 to 5, right? So the admins, they do this a lot. That's why people run the vulnerability scan and then see if the admin is doing something they're not supposed to do. He wants to make his life easier because he's an admin. But on the other hand, we the security guys too, we want to protect the system. So what he will do is that, okay, 9 to 5, I'm home, I don't want anything. If the server goes down, now they're going to call me because he's probably on call, he has his cell phone, they're going to call it, hey, the server is down. He has to come back to the location and then troubleshoot and see what's going on. So what they do is that for the most part, they create a backdoor so he can log in from home and see what's going on the server, right? If it is allowed, fine, but if the company or the organization or the agency says, we do not allow any backdoor creation, do not put a backdoor. If there's something wrong, move or get out from your house and come on site, come fix it. Do not put a backdoor where you can remote log in into the server and troubleshoot. That is if you're dealing with a high sensitive system, right? They don't want you to put any backdoor. You have to move to the location and troubleshoot. So those are some of the misconfigurations. So these are the big blocks, right? So what are we looking for? Vulnerability scan. We're looking for vulnerability scan. We're looking for misconfiguration, and we're also looking for patch services. This is common. We see it even on our local machine, our personal machines. Right? Windows will push in some update. I hope we all do the update because it's very important. Because sometimes when you buy the laptops and then you start using it, they have an R&D team within the Windows environment. So what they do is that they look for flaws in the design. Maybe when they created they wrote a code and the code has a flaw in there that a hacker can exploit. So what they do is that they fix the flaws and push it as a patch. We call it patch on the organizational level. But when you see on your home laptop, you're going to see updates. Windows has new update for your machine. You would like to download and apply it now, and then you click yes. But for the most part, guess what? We just said no. It's easy doing our stuff. Because sometimes it takes about 30 minutes, 15 minutes to download the update. Especially when you're busy, you don't want to do it. But it's very important because the patch services is very, very important. That's how you pull some of the loopholes in your machine. I try to do it every now and then, like every Monday morning. I shut down my computers on weekend. Monday morning, I run my patch, run my updates, make sure I get all the updates from Windows, then I start using my machines. So this is what it is on patch service. Unnecessary services not disabled. So when you go in there, so let's say you're using a database. Database, for the most part, they have a system account, right? System account is account by default with the database. So like I think they have a sysgroup account, forget the name. So what this means is that it allows you to do certain part of the database activity, but if your organization doesn't require that, it's an unnecessary service. Or maybe let me bring it down to our local machine. You start your program, you do msconfig. Let me show you what this means. So we do msconfig. So the msconfig will show you all the services that you have on your machine, right? So you see where it says services. These are all the services that are running on this machine, right? So what the number 3 is saying is the unnecessary services that should be disabled. It is this one here. All systems have some services running, but if the service running is not applicable or you don't need it at that point, disable it. Because for the most part, I see a lot of people will bring their machine. They'll be like, oh, my machine is running slow. The first thing I do msconfig. I look at the services, and I see that they have a lot of services running at the background. You don't even need it. It's killing your RAM, and it's making your computer move so slow. So for the most part, if you don't need it, just do msconfig. Go into the services. The services that says, you see, this one says, so for the most part, I stop my services, right? I only leave the services that I need. But if I'm troubleshooting machines for people, the first thing when I go here, everything is running all across board. I'm like, what kind of RAM do you have? You're killing your machine. Running all these services, you don't need them. So what you have to do is that, you see where it says disable? So let's say this radio management, I don't want to do it because I'm recording right now. So, but Windows backup, I don't want to stop that. So whatever it is that you want to stop, right? You click on it. So let's say, okay, WebEx is stopped already, right? So we're not using WebEx now. So see, you just disable it. You click, it's going to be like disable. You choose it, it's going to be disabled, and then you disable it, right? And then for the most part, what you have to do is that just disable all, and then go into your list and see what services do I need for my my computer. The services that I don't need. Right? You can always start a service. It's not like when you disable it, you can never use it again. No, you're just saying that disable it for now. I don't need it. If I need it, I'm going to start it myself. Do not let the machine start it by default. Disable it and then you start it. And also, you see where it says the startup? And that's another big one too. Because the startup, you go, it tells you that go to, I think Windows 7, Windows XP and 7, you see all your startups here. But Windows 8 and 10, now they'll tell you to go to the Open Task Manager. So you go to Task Manager. It's going to tell you all the program that is. So the startup means that whenever I put on my computer, if my computer is booting up, all this program is going to boot along. Do I need to do that? If I don't, disable it, because it means that my startup process is going to be longer. That's why people restart their computer. They have to go to sleep before the computer comes up. Why? Because it started all this program at the background. How do you get it? You just type msconfig. msconfig on your Windows search bar here. msconfig. So that's the short form of configuration, right? So Microsoft configuration. Once you type in there, it takes you there. Look at your services, the services that you don't need, disable them, and then go to the next one that says startup. So the startup is whenever I start my computer, all these programs are going to start at the background. That's why you kill your computer. You cannot get your. Somebody was telling me that his computer takes about an hour to start whenever he starts. I said, wow. So guess what? When we went into the MS config, he has like tons of programs. He has a database program running because he did some database. He has SQL, Oracle. Those are heavy programs. They can kill your RAM. So I said, you know, go ahead. Exactly, system priority. Yeah, that's exactly what this is trying to avoid. If you don't need them, disable them. Because when you leave them open, it's like all the time they're taking resources from your system. They're taking up resources from your system, and your computer is going to run slow. So this is what we call the unnecessary services system. So you see when you go to the tax manager, all these programs, see, I've disabled some of mine. You know, whatever program you don't need to start as a startup program with your machine, just click on it and then disable it. So let's say this one here is enable. You see it's enable, and then I'll click on disable. I'm just going to disable it. So it means the next time my program is starting, this program is not going to start with it. And then try that, you see that your machine moves faster. Now your machine is moving faster because you're going to free up all the resources. So this is what the misconfigurations is talking about. All right, so moving on. All right, so unnecessary services not disabled. If you don't need it, MS config, disable all the program, and then everything that you don't need to start with your machine, disable it. Right? So this is what vulnerabilities aim at discovering. And also we have the threat. So this is the definition. Back then, I think week 2, we talk about this. Agent actors or that can cause exploit. That can use exploit to cause the system, malicious hackers. We have insiders, employees. Those are the big ones. So you see, you know, we'll be using a lot of 800 the control panel, right? The FND, F controls. Now, remember we are in revision 4. I think by the end of the year, we're going into revision 5. And then revision 5, the biggest thing they add into that document is what? Insider threat. Why? Because of Snowden. What Snowden did, the government now is putting some measures on people who are using the system. So that's going to affect us for the most part. The people that work with the government in the security environment, they're going to put a lot of checks on us in the Reg 5. A lot of controls. So that when we see the Reg 5 coming out, this is exactly what they're going to be looking for. You see this online guy. So quiet. I didn't hear anybody. Online guys, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right. All right. So exploit. And can you see the screen? Is the screen sharing good?
Yeah, we can see.
All right, cool. Perfect. Because we can. All right. So exploit, code or technique that a threat used to take advantage of a vulnerability. So for the most part, you see that when you give courses, maybe when you start working and then you feel like, okay, now I did a compliance, I know a little bit about cybersecurity, I want to do more hands-on, I want to do like hacking, I want to do penetration testing. Now you're going to start talking about exploit. How do you develop exploit? And all those kind of things. This is exploit is code or programming language you can use to take advantage of a computer or take over a computer. Plugins. We're going to see a lot of plugins today because we're going to be using the vulnerability scan. So it says a plugin are programs. So for the most part, you're going to hear this word a lot, especially when you get a job within the federal as an IT security analyst. When you're doing a review of our business scan, everybody will just be throwing this term around. Plugin, right? So plugin is, when you hear the word pro, is just programming language. You use the programming language to write a program, right? Programs that are written in Nessus attack scripting language, right? NASL. These plugins contain vulnerability information, simplified set of remediation actions, and the algorithm to test for the presence of a security issue. That's what the program is. So they use this programming language, the Nessus attack scripting language, to write this program, and they call it plugins. So you're going to see that the plugins go by number for the most part. you see plugin number 21658. That is specifically for one flaw. Let's say if Nessus plugin number 2150008 for what? Backdoors, right? 61200 will be for what? Say on patch systems, right? Those are the Nexus always use numbers to differentiate between vulnerabilities. So for the most part, when you're searching, you look for the plugin number. And I'll show you the website and it's going to tell you exactly what is wrong with your system, right? That's what it is. So Tenable Research has published about 133,939 plugins. This is just for information. Nobody's going to ask you how many plugins are. If they actually doing that during the interview, this is just for information. So the plugins is, which means Nessus as a company, they have written about this much program to look for vulnerability within systems. Right? That's what this is saying. And also remember, not all vulnerabilities are exploitable. So you might see some vulnerabilities in your system, but it doesn't mean a hacker can exploit or hack you with those vulnerabilities. All right. So we use form to track the vulnerability remediation based on different time frames, such as 30 days for a high system. For high vulnerabilities. When you have a vulnerability, if you discover a vulnerability within your system, at the environment, if it is a high, because Nexus has classification, they have critical, sometimes critical and high just together. So that's why we have three breakdown. So critical high, 30 days, and a moderate, and then the low findings, right? So if you have a high finding or high vulnerabilities, you need 30 days. You have to fix that within 30 days. Say you work for Department of State, and then they give you a scan to review, and then within the scan, you saw that the scan to identify a vulnerability, and then you give it a high finding. A high finding being that you did not upgrade to, maybe you're using a server that is not being supported by Microsoft, right? Maybe they stop supporting that. That's going to be a high finding. That you have to be remediated. It has to be remediated within 30 days. Because that means that if Microsoft doesn't support that server, it means it's wide open. Anybody can hack it, right? So if you have a high vulnerability, you have to remediate that vulnerability within 30 days. If you have a vulnerability that is what? Moderate, you have 60 days to fix it. And low vulnerabilities, 90 days, you can relax. If the tool tells you that this vulnerability is a low finding, you have 90 days to remediate that. Example of security compliance benchmarks. These are organizations that come out with things to look for. That's what we call benchmark, right? Like things to look for when you're doing a review. Center for Internet Security. When you go to their website, they have, if you're dealing with, say, Server 2016, they'll give you the critical part to look for. They'll tell you, make sure the server is hardened, make sure the server is dead, make sure whatever devices you're looking for. If you're looking for a firewall or a router, whatever make and brand, you type it in there, they give you exactly what to look for. So all these are like checklists of things that is going to make your system hardened, like not being able to be hacked. So those are called benchmarks. So how many benchmarks here? We have about 4. So Center for Internet Security is 1. United States government configuration baselines. These are, for the most part, all the agencies that are not DHS and DOD. The rest of civilian agencies, they use this baseline. United States government configuration baseline. You're going to hear the word USGCB a lot. USGCB is just the configuration that the non-DHS, non-DOD department, the civilian department, they use that. That's what they use to check their baseline. It tells you that if you have Windows Server 2016, these are things that you have to do to make sure it's strong enough that nobody can hack it. Those are the baseline. So you look for your equipment or your devices and you see what recommendation they're giving. Make sure it is hardened. That's the word they use. Whenever you hear harden, you have to harden your server. It means you have to make sure all unnecessary services are disabled. All startup services that you don't need are disabled. All the default password has been changed. Those are what we call the hardening, right? You're hardening your server. Services I don't need, I disable it. I don't want it to sit on my system. These guys, they give you the baseline to follow. DHS, DOD, right? So the Department of Homeland Security, and then the DoD guys, they use this. It's called state, right? This is what Defense Information Security Agency, right? Defense Information Security Agency. And this STIG stands for Security Technical Implementation Guide. Security Technical Implementation Guide, right? These are these guys here. They give all the baseline for what needs to be checked within the system in DHS and DoD, right? The Defense Information Security Agency, right? So you see Defense Information Security, right? And then they have the STIG, Security Technical Implementation Guide, right? And then also for the rest of us, you know, we use Cisco equipment. We have firewalls, we have routers and stuff like that. Cisco, they also have their own Cisco network infrastructure checklist. So they call it checklist. So you have to check it and make sure all the stuff that you have on your thing is there to make sure your router and firewall. So these are some of the compliance checks that you're going to be. So if they ask you, if you're going for interview, let's say you got an interview with DHS, right, or DoD, right, especially when you have a top secret or secret clearance, and then you go, for the most part, DHS, DoD are going to flag you and then call you for interview. You want to tell them that I've been exposed to Center for Internet Security benchmark. They have no clue what that is. So this is what I've been using. I've been using the United States government configuration benchmark. They know it, but they don't implement it in that. So they cannot ask you a lot of questions. Because you're going in for DHS and DoD, they use what? GISA state. So you don't want to, you try to avoid questions. So you say, I use these two. Exactly, because they don't use that in that environment. So guess what? The admin don't even know much about that. So they can't even ask you that. At least they know you know what a benchmark is. So I use what? CIS benchmark, or I use the USGCB benchmark because I'm coming in from a civilian agency, right? But on the other hand, if they call you for, let's say, US Department of Agriculture calls you for an interview, guess what you used before? State, right? Because they don't know about state. So it's like you play with them like that and then they just put you on board. Just want to, it's bad if you tell them, oh, I don't know any benchmarks, right? You're a student, you know benchmarks, you know exactly what they're doing. It's just a checklist of things. You have to make sure that the system is valid. So always play with them like that and see whatever agency you go with, you know, you can play with them like that. But for the most part, if you're able to tell them that you know what CIS benchmark is, you know what this, you know what STIG is, you know what, they know you know exactly what you're talking about, right? It's just a bunch of checklists. These guys have already done the work for you. You look for the checklist, it tells you what you have to look in. Make sure this unnecessary service is disabled. Make sure that is disabled. Make sure this is disabled. That's what the checklist is doing. It's just giving us a way to do these kind of things in order not to make our system wide open, you know, for any attack. All right. So the vulnerability scanner must be done on the same subnet. This is very important. It depends. It changes because you know what? If you have a benchmark for Windows 2003, I believe the benchmark would be deleted by now because Windows don't even support Server 2003 anymore. So if any device gets obsolete, right, they delete it because it's no point. It's an old device. The vendors don't even support it anymore. So why keep it, right? So that's how they update it. And then when they add, let's say now we have Windows 2019, so they're going to add a checklist. The more devices we get, the more checklists they add, and then those that are obsolete, they delete it. So they make it current. Yeah. All right. So the vulnerability scanner must be on the same subnet. Very important. Even on your home network, I know a lot of people have like multiple networks. I'm just saying maybe. Let's say on your home you have your main Wi-Fi and you have your guest Wi-Fi. So your guest Wi-Fi SSID will be different, right, from your main router if you ever segregated your network like that. So if I'm running a scan and then I put my computer at home on my guest network, guess what? I'm not going to see those devices because that is separated from my main network. So it means you have to put it on the same network where you want the scanner to see all these equipment. If I put it on my guest network, but for the most part, my guest network is empty, unless I have guests in my house. That's where I give them the guest account, and then they log in. I can see their machines and stuff like that. If I want to do, but it's illegal. Right? You don't want to scan your guests when you come to your house. But I'm just saying, so you can understand the concept of what you can understand the concept of subnet. So subnetting, put your machine that that is running the scan on the subnet you want to scan. If you put it on a different subnet, it's not going to see all the devices. You can scan. So the vulnerability scanner report is exported in PDF. You can do PDF, but when large number of servers and computers are involved, it is exported in what? CSV, and then saved as an Excel file. So the CSV file will give you the option to save as an Excel file, and then you can do filtering, right? You can do a lot of it, especially when, for the most part, we have information. We want to see what information are. Informational is just, it's not a vulnerability, but it's telling you that, okay, you have this, it's not necessary. But if you leave it, nothing happens. Those are information. So when I'm reviewing my scan, I want to be able to filter out all the noise so I can concentrate on the main part of it, right? So the main part will be critical vulnerability, high vulnerability, and moderate vulnerability. Low information, I just want to filter them. So if you export them in Excel, Excel will give you that capability to filter all the noise and then pay attention to the main one. That's why a lot of people will do Excel for quick analysis, ease of filtering, sorting, possible vulnerabilities in Excel. Summary of the scan results will be included in the security assessment report. Guess what? Remember we went over when we finished our testing and everything, all the individual test cases, the spreadsheet that we used last week for the testing. For let's say we're testing 800 controls. We have a team of 7 people. Everybody will test their various controls. It's a lot of spreadsheet, and then they put them together, and then they zip the file, and then they attach it to the report. It's going to be an appendix to the report. So if the ISO or the system owner want to see exactly what we did with all our testing, you can go in there. Likewise, the vulnerability scan is going to be an appendix, right? So if our control assessment, the test case is all our spreadsheet that we use for the testing, manual testing, we call it appendix A. Vulnerability scan results will be appended as well, appendix B. So the SAR report is a complete report. It tells you everything that you want to know. All the vulnerability scan report is going to be embedded in that report as well. All right, so these websites are, let's say, the National Vulnerability Database. So they're just keeping track of all the vulnerabilities that are out there. Excuse me. All right, so see, and then they give you, once they report a vulnerability, they give you something we call the CVE, Common Vulnerability Enumerator, right? That's the number. So the CVE number, whatever CVE number you want to find, if you run a scan and then the scan ever gives you anything that starts with CVE, and you want to see what is the CVE, you can always use some of these websites here, and then you search your CVE, vulnerability by CVE, you put it in there, and then you copy all the CVE information and search it here. So this is going to pull the information about that vulnerability. Remember, the CVE is going to be reported when we run our scan. The scan is going to tell us the vulnerability with a CVE. So if you want to know more about that vulnerability, you copy that number, the number that starts with CVE, you copy and go to this database, and you can search and read more about the vulnerability. And also, if you're a researcher, you can also report vulnerabilities to this database here. Let me see. I think this is the right. Right. So you see where you say request CVE. So if you're a security researcher, if your work is to research vulnerabilities, we have people out there, that's what they do. The programmers, they're very technical, they research vulnerability, computer vulnerabilities. If they ever research a computer vulnerability that has not been discovered before, they go to this website and then they request for what? CVE IDs. So when you click on the CVE ID, you go to the breakdown. So they have the breakdown by devices. So let's say I discovered my my vulnerability on, say, Facebook or something like that, right? You go to Facebook security page. and then you tell it exactly how you, let's see. I think this is a different page. Okay, here. So let's see. GitHub, my heart. Let's see. Yeah, go. Yeah, this is kind of different. Okay. Reset. Controller. Jennifer. So cat there. See price. Boss. I don't know. They want to add an account. I don't want to go through that. But the bottom line is that when you locate the correct CVE numbering authority, whose scope include the product affected by the vulnerability. So the product that you identify, whatever product that you are testing and that you identify the vulnerability in, the table below, contact the CNA specific below using the contact method, right? So you have to contact the vendor, right? I thought I can go over the where it wants me to enter my Facebook. I don't even want to go to that. But the point is, when you click on the Facebook, it will tell you exactly why are you saying there's a vulnerability within Facebook, all right? And then you contact them and then you let them know. See, contact the CNA specified below using the correct contact method. If the product affected by the vulnerability is not covered by the CNA listed below, please contact us. So you're gonna go in and contact them and say, hey, Facebook, I just discovered a vulnerability on your web page, and this is the vulnerability. I want you to, link with the common vulnerability enumerator to get a CVE number so we can report this vulnerability. This is pretty much what this database is. If you're a researcher and this is what you do, you find a vulnerability in any system, you contact the people, and then you give them the vulnerability, they validate the vulnerability, and then they say, okay, yeah, you're right. We have this vulnerability on our system. And then they report to the CVE, and the CVE will give a number so that anybody now that CVE will be available to anybody who wants to use it on this website. So this website is where they report the vulnerability. And when the vulnerability it's not going to be an easy way, an easy thing within two hours or 3 days. It's done. They have to validate that it's an actual vulnerability on this website. When they validate that it's an actual vulnerability, now they include it in the database. So that this is going to be available to the public, right? You discover the vulnerability, you report it on the other website, they validate and then make sure it is a true vulnerability. Now they include it in the database. That is going to be in this database, National Vulnerability Database. So anybody now who wants to go research or do more reading about that vulnerability can come to this database with that CVE number if it is published. Then you can search and read more. What is that vulnerability on Facebook or whatever system that it is covered? So these are some of the websites that will be handy once you're doing that. And this one is just for the government, US government. They call it the US CERT, right? Computer and Emergency Response Team. Whatever weakness they discover within the government infrastructure, this is where they publish it, right? So all the agencies are aware of what is going on. So, you can play with this website and see and this is being managed by the Homeland Security, right? So you see exactly, you can navigate this website and see what are the latest alerts and tips, whatever they're saying, because this website is just, and then I think you can set up an email alert on this website. So because I have that on my email account. So for the most part, if something happens within hours, you get an alert that, the DHS discovered that this ransom attack is now at this level, this is what it can do, it can cause that, and then they give you an alert so you can read it. So if you want, you can go here, set up your email account, and they give you like live feed of whatever is happening, all the vulnerabilities live. And it's sometimes an interview questions too, right? I remember when I was interviewing for I don't remember that they actually, to ask a cybersecurity person, how do you stay informed with current cybersecurity issues? So right there, I remember that I had this DHS case. So I told them that on the CISA, I set up my email. I get an alert whenever there's new security event or security threat within the government. And then the guy was like, okay, Right? So they just want to know, because you're not going to say you're a cybersecurity guy and then you just like you in the back room, you don't know what's going on. But you have to know what is going on in the real time, right? So you can tell them that on the DHS website, the CSAR page, I register and I get real time alert whenever something happens. Yeah, and this is open for legal. Oh, it's legal. Yeah, it's legal. I can show you sample. You know, it's very legal. I've been doing that for like 6-7 years now. Always they give you. I don't think I've done it on this group, on the WhatsApp group, right? Sometimes you see me posting something like a screenshot of what is happening. I get it from this website, and I'll just share it with you guys. I think the last group had a lot of those when I was doing that. But for now, I think let's just see. I'm just gonna show you real quick. So it's good if you want. I mean, you know, I don't know if they're gonna ask that in the interview, but for the most part, if they do, so you're gonna see that. All these are but they tell you Cisco release security update. Even if they release a patch, whatever company they will just send you a let you read it. It's very important if you can do that. All right. So that being said, let's see. Let's start running our scan. And again, for those of you who came in late, the thing is, I know it's going to be like a lot of one-on-one needs as we go along. But if I do that, I realize that I run out of the 4 hours, and then a lot of the materials will not be covered, right? So I want to go over the material, run the scan, know how we review it, and then we start doing the individual help, right? Even if we are not done, we can always schedule one-on-one and then complete it. But let's finish the lectures first. All right. So real quick, I'm gonna go. I've already downloaded a vulnerability scan on my machine. This is how you start it. Vulnerability scan is based off something we call the local host. It uses a loopback IP. So the loopback IP is 127.0.0.1. All right, but you can also call it what? Local host. So you start it with this URL, https://localhost. And then the port number is 8834. This is the, if you have your thing downloaded, this is the URL you should remember all the time. 34. Nessus ran on this port, 8834. It's a security plus question. What port is Nessus running on? 8834, right? So remember that. So if it will pop up, exactly. So remember, when you set up your Nessus, the password and the username and the password, remember, if you forget that, nobody can help you. They don't have password recovery. You have to delete the whole instance and download it again. So when you're setting up the password that you use, make sure you remember that. All right. So now when you log into your Nessus, this is what you're gonna see. Let me just delete some of this policy. It's too much here. Yeah. Let me delete that. All right. Well, I have some of your stuff when you're running it for the first time. You're not gonna see this, right? So Nessus is based off something we call policy. So the policy is just how you want your tool to run and search for vulnerability. Let me open this document real quick. As I go along, I'll refer back to it. All right. So this is the Word document that I gave out last week. You follow it, you download it. This is the link to download. It used to be called Nessus Home, right? Home Edition, but now they call it Nessus Essential. If you see Nessus Essential, it means the free version. That's the home version, right? You go to that URL and download. You register with your name and email, and you get a activation code. They're gonna send you the activation code in your email, and then you proceed to the distros where you can download. Pay attention. If you have 32-bit machine, look for the Nessus that says 32-bit. If you have 64-bit, look for the Nessus scan that says the download that says 64-bit. If you're using Mac OS, look for Mac OS. If you're using Windows, look for Windows, right? Because if you're using Linux, use for Linux, right? I used to teach this on the Linux environment, but it was a whole lot because we didn't have enough time. So the Linux distro is also another layer, right? But for now, let's stick to the Windows, right? So whatever operating system you're using, select that operating system. For the most part, a lot of people uses the Windows 10. That's why I highlighted this. So Nexus, that MSI, for the most part, is Microsoft, right? That MSI gives you a clue that is Microsoft right there. So you know this is Microsoft. And then what? Windows. If you want to download it on Windows Server 2008, Windows Server 2008 R2, Windows Server 2012, 2012 R2, Windows 7, 8, and 10, you can all use the same package. That's what this means, right? All right. I think I have to update it with people with a MacBook. So if you want to, and I'll show that where you download it. So once you download, it comes to this page. Like I said, this is where you have to put in your username and the password. And remember your username and the password, because there, you see, there's no recover password option here because it's free. So they don't want to give you too much. If you forget your password, you delete the whole instant and go through the whole process again. And then nobody can help you with your password. All right. So Nexus scan, missing patches. Like I said, they discovered missing patches and stuff like that. All right. So let's go into the, when you open up your Nexus scan, the first thing you want to do is, see, you click on the policies. Policies allows you to create custom template. See, policies allows you to create custom template defining what actions are performed during the scan. You want to define what action you want to be performed during the scan. That's what is policy, right? Once created, they can be selected from the list of scan templates. From this page, you can view, create, import, download, edit, and delete your policies, right? So policies define what action you need to perform during the scan. You cannot have a scanner without a policy. And this is what we're going to do. So first of all, you click on the policy, you click on new scan, right? And then you go to where it says the advanced scan. Remember, they have the advanced dynamic scan. That's the new thing that they're doing, right? But we're going to talk about that later. But always go with the advanced scan, right? See what this means? The one that has this ribbon, the upgrade ribbon on the side, it means you cannot use those policies. For instance, you don't want to create your own policy, but you want to use the default template, default policies they have on this on the Nexus. See, all of these are default policies, right? But it's telling you that these cannot be used for free. You have to pay money. So that's why they have the upgrade ribbon. I think it's about 1,005 for 500 IP, 1,005 a year, or 5,000. I forgot. It's some money like they charge you some crazy money like that, and they charge you based on the IPs. That's how they sell it. So if you want to get 200 IP, it's like 1,000 or 1,005. 300 IP, they bump the price. 500 IP, they bump the price. So if your environment has like 1,000 IP, you're looking at more money. They charge you based on the IPs that you have in your environment, right? So, and again, if you want to, let's say you have a small business and then you take credit card, you know, that machine that uses the credit card, right? It has an IP address, it's connected to the internet, right? So you want to see if that machine is compliant to PCI. So the PCI stands for Payment Card Industry. Payment Card Industry, right? It tests if your point of sales is correct, or I mean, not correct, but if it tests if your point of sale has a vulnerability or has no vulnerability, right? That's why they don't want to give you that for free, because they know you, if you are using PCI or you want to test your equipment for PCI, which means you're in business. If you're in business, they want you to give them some money as well. That's why those are not free. And then this is what I don't understand. The mobile device, I would think this would be free because a lot of people use mobile device so we can scan our mobile devices, but they don't give us free. So I don't know. And then what else? Policy compliance auditing is well, but at least you have a WannaCry ransomware. So if you want to see if your machines are affected by ransomware, this is free. You can use that policy, right? And then run your scan. So these are all available policies we want to use, but I don't want us to select any of those available policies. You can do that on your own. But what I want us to do is that let's learn how to create a custom policy. How do you create a custom policy? You go to the advanced scan, right? And then it gives you this opening. And this is where you have to, start building your custom policy. So here, I'm just going to call it what? Class Whatever you want to call it, home, you call it your home policy, and then you put the date. So class policy, today's date is 10/5/18, right? All right. So you can give a description, maybe training policy, right? And then you go to the next one in line from the settings. This is discovery. For the most part, most of these things are defaulted because this is a free version, right? Cannot do much with that. But at least the free version is doing the work perfectly for our home environment. I run this in all the time in my home environment. If I see anything, I upgrade or I see what's going on, right? So for the most part, you're not going to do anything here. Nothing goes in here. And then the port scanning, you leave it as default. How many ports do we have, by the way? For those who are taking the scanning, complete total number of ports we have on the computer. Anybody? 65,563. Security plus question. Total ports of a computer, 65,563 ports. Did you see that in the exams? The ports? You didn't see anything about ports? Yeah. Yeah, but those are the whole port that we have, 65,000. If you can say the number 65,000 for interview at least, but for a security part, you have to be on point. You have to bring the 65,563. That is the total port that we have. But it 65,563. Yeah. Right. And then also, but because scan the Nessus scan, what it does is that it scans only the default, and the default is what? 1,000. So another set of question is, in the Nessus environment, how many ports are the default? The default are the 1,000 ports. So they scan the first 1,000 for the Nessus scan. But if you want to scan the 65,000, you can change the default here. You know where it says the default? You can remove the default and you put your 65,563. But then that's going to slow down your scanning because it has to scan a lot of ports. So for the most part, the 1,000 port is enough for us, right? So leave it as default. All right, so I think that's the only thing we worry about here. Consider unscanned port as closed. Nah, just leave it as default. Service discovery. You leave everything here as default. I'm just going to pick and choose whatever I want to talk about. I'll just talk about it here. Everything here is fine. And then we go to the assessment. So override normal accuracies. And I'm not going to change it, but I'm just going to throw in some explanation here. So avoid potential false positive, right? If you do that, Nessus is going to make sure before it reports anything as being a vulnerability, it will triple check, quadruple check it, and make sure it is actually a vulnerability before it reports it. That's why this is saying avoid potential false alarm, right? But if I want to see anything that is a bit suspicious, okay, yeah, if I want to see anything that is a bit suspicious, I don't want Nessus to validate it for me, just report it for me. I'll do the validation myself. This is what this means. So I'm going to say avoid normal accuracies, and then I'll uncheck or show potential false alarm, right? So now I'm telling the system, I know you're going to double check, triple check, quadruple check, and make sure it is actual vulnerability before you report it in my report, right? But I don't want that. Give me anything that looks the slightest of suspicion that is a vulnerability. Show me. This is what this means. But make sure you have enough space on your machine to do this because it's going to report to a lot of information, right? If you don't have enough space and you don't want to be seeing a lot of noise, always uncheck this. Before then, check the avoid potential false positive, and then uncheck this. So that's going to make sure the Nessus scan is going to do the job for you. Everything that's going to be reported is something that has been validated as a real weakness. Make sense? All right. So it said perform thorough test may disrupt your network or impact scan. So this, do not check this if you have something going on, especially your home. Yeah, if everything shut down, you can always bring it back up, right? But on an environment, especially when they have a high availability system, the system cannot afford to go down for even maybe 10, 15 minutes. You don't want to check this out because this means that the scan is going to brute force the hell out of this system to make sure it determines if there is any vulnerability.
It's going to do a thorough test, and that can cause the server to go down, right? Because it's checking everything, all the files, everything, all the folders. Like in Linux, how we did the folders and the directories, it's going to check everything in detail, and that can cause a potential denial of service. The server can shut down. So you don't want to do that. So leave it like that, right? And then if you have SMTP, right? My folks taking the security plus, SMTP, Simple Mail Transfer Protocol, right? Simple Mail Transfer Protocol. That is what the mail server sit on. That's the protocol that uses the mail server. If you have that in your environment, like your work environment, definitely they do have what SMTP, right? Because they use email all the time. So you can set up the email that you want to receive an alert from. So as the scan is running, if something goes wrong, it sends you an alert directly into your email, right? But this is only available to people with this server, SMTP server, right? So Lima, you can say, if you see any acronym that looks like something that comes in, let me know. So I just want to write them down. SLM in this field or the next one? The one before it. So let's see, is it the general? Let's go back to assessment. Discovery. All right. So the SSL TLS, you saw that in the exam, right? So this is based on web server. If you have any web server, the website, it uses, the HTTPS, when you're writing your web URL, HTTPS, the S is what stands for the SSL. It means the secure. So the SSL is secure socket layer. Secure socket layer, right? It's what gives the HTTP the security it needs, right? So for the most part in the past, you write HTTP and then you just do maybe www.google.com, right? Without the S. And this is on what? Port 80, right? But this is not secure. That's why they brought the port 443. And the port 443 is HTTPS. So the S that you see here, they added another protocol. And this protocol is what? Secure socket layer. And this is one way of providing the security. But now it's even obsolete. Now they don't even use this. They use the TLS. You're going to see the TLS. And I think it's a mandate now that everybody, by the end of last year, everybody should be moving their SSL to TLS. And then we have TLS 1.2, and that's the standard. So the TLS is what? Transport layer security. Transport layer security. So that's more, for the most part, when you see SSL, TLS, you're talking about what? Web. Think about HTTPS, the web, right? Think about that. That's what that is what gives us the security. All right, let me know if you see any of them so I can go over the I know it's a lot of acronyms for the security plus. So all right, so moving on. We go to the assessment. So if you have SMTP, that's the mail server. That's what you have to do, and then you write your email that you want the alerts to be sent to. But on your home environment, you don't have it. So leave it as default. Don't worry about it, right? And then the brute force. Don't worry about brute force, right? It says only use credential provided by the user. So leave it because you don't have anything in our environment. I think I want to talk about, we don't have web application, leave it as default. Windows, let me see, what else can I request information about the SMB domain. So when you see the SMB domain, that's another, we're not going to do anything, but let me just explain what the SMB is. SMB is a server message block. In an agency or in a work environment, they have a lot of servers, right? They put a lot of servers, multiple servers in the production environment, but they want to have a location where they can all communicate to and get files. All the servers communicate to one centralized location and get all the information that they need. That information is being stored at the server message block. That is what the SMB is. And for the most part, because it's at the server level, it doesn't require authentication. It just connect and get the information that they need. But if a hacker is good enough, I think what is the port? It requires authentication. right? If a hacker is able to get in there, you're going to see a lot of that when we run the scan. The SMB doesn't require authentication. That is how they build it, because it's internal facing service. They want to be able to communicate and get information as quickly as possible. Because if they put authentication, it delays business. But guess what? It's perfectly allowed. As long as it is internal, it is not public facing. Within the network, it's fine. So that's why you see those errors a lot. And what else do I have to? Yeah, we can scan for malware. Just choose that. You can ignore that. But we're not going to do anything else. And then the reporting. How do you want us to report it? So you see, okay, this one too is very important. If you know how, let's say I choose this one here. It says avoid normal verbosity. All right. So the verbosity is, if you're doing Linux, there's an option they call the minus or tag v -v. Whenever you write a command and then you put tag v, it means that give me a lot of information. Let me know everything that you're doing, because Linux is notorious in running things at the background. You put a command, everything just go blank, but it's running at the background, right? And then just give you the results. But if you want to see exactly line by line what happened, you put a -v. You type a command and put -v. The -v will give you everything that is happening at the background. So this is what this is. So think about that and then override normal verbosity. It means that I have a limited space. You see here, it says I have a limited disk space. Report as little information as possible, which means I don't want you to give me a lot of information. Line by line, whatever you're doing, line by line, report it. That's going to be an overwhelming information, right? And sometimes if you are not very careful, that alone can scare you. You can't even review that scan. You're like, okay, what I did? Because this is giving you all the script that is running line by line, right? But if you are someone who is very technical and you want to see everything that the scan is running line by line, you can say override normal verbosity. Just report as much information as possible. So that means that the scan will report line by line, whatever they're doing line by line, whatever the scan is doing line by line, they need to report. There's going to be a lot of information though. Your report is going to be a lot. So if you want to do that, that's fine. This is what it means. So for now, we don't want to do it. We just want to do, I have limited disk space, report little information as possible so we can make sense of the report, right? And sometimes too, you can modify the output here. You know, again, you see, this one is, I think I should talk about this, even though it's already checked. It says, show missing patches that have been superseded. Patches are being released in the work environment. We have something we call the Patch Tuesdays. So the Patch Tuesday for Windows is like when they push in all the updates for the Windows servers and the Windows machine, right? So what the admin, what they do is that they will get these patches and then apply it. That would be for, let's say, for the month of October, right? Or let me just use the month of September, that passes, right? September is last month. So the patch was released, but the admin did not run the patch, right? And now we're in October. We're going to get another October patch, right? So they get the October patch and then they run the October patch. What did they do? They didn't run the September patch, but they run the October patch. So you are telling the system that even if there was a patch that was superseded, because the October patch is going to supersede the September patch, right? Because someone did not patch it, you're saying that give me those patches that were superseded. I want to see it. And then if it is a compliance issue, now you're going to have to, somebody has to answer. Why did you not run the patch for September? Even though you run the patch for October, it's going to patch everything, right? Because this superseded that. But I want to see which one we did not run in September. That is what this is saying. Show me missing patches that have been superseded, right? And hide results from the plugin initiated as a dependency. If we're going to see the plugins, right? The plugins are the programs, remember? The program that run the scan to see what vulnerabilities exist. So if you're saying that hide results from plugin initiated as a dependence, most of these plugins will be dependent on each other, right? Let's say plugin A is going to run item XYZ, and plugin B is going to run item WXYZ. See that this A is probably going to be dependent on the B because the B is doing a lot more, but it's including everything that plugin A is doing, right? Makes sense, right? So if it isn't dependent on another plugin, I don't want to see the results, because guess what? If it is dependent on the plugin B, the B is going to run everything that A is running anyways. If you report it, it's going to be double information for me, because this is running everything that you contain but more. So show me the one that is running more so I can see everything that this is running, right? So hide results from plugins initiated as a dependency. This is what this means. All right, so when you go here, allow users to edit your scan results. This, I don't think organization want to do this, because it's like, but for you, you play with this, because it means that when I get the results, I can manipulate the results, I can edit the results, but sometimes you want to be fixed. Nobody can, But for learning purposes, we can allow users to edit our results and stuff like that. Designate host by DNS name. We don't use DNS on our home environment, so we should just leave that. Display hosts that respond to ping. Yeah, we want to see that. Display on ping, right? So ping is, let me just explain it in a layman's term before I go into technical details. So let's say if someone is coming to this room, right? First thing you want to do, you want to know. If someone responded yes, that is, they know there's somebody in the room, then they enter, right? Pinging is the server or the scanning tool. Before it starts scanning any server, it will ping it and make sure that it is alive, or make sure that it's online, it's connected. If it responds back, then the scanning tool realizes that, oh, this server is connected, it's alive. If I say it's alive, meaning it's up and running, right? So if it responds to my pinging, then I know it is alive. Then now I can start scanning. They don't want to waste resources and start scanning without pinging. Because if you start scanning without pinging, you might be scanning the dead server. The dead server meaning it's not online. Exactly, getting feedback. So you have to knock and then get the feedback. That's the ping. And then the ping is based on this protocol. You're going to see that a lot. It's ICMP. Yeah, exactly. There you go. Internet Control Message Protocol. That is what we use for the pinging. Internet Control Message Protocol. So that's pinging. Pinging, basically, think about you knocking to make sure somebody is in the room before you enter. So in the technical sense, if I want to scan a server, I have to ping it and get a response. Then I know the server is alive, then I can start scanning. Make sense? That's pinging. All right, so it says display unreachable host. Yeah. If the host is unreachable, it means it is not online. Maybe the computer shut down. I don't want to see that, right? Maybe let's see it. Let's see the computers that are not online, right? All right, so the reporting part is done, and then the critical one is in the advanced. Even if you don't want to check anything, go to the advanced tab and make sure this one is checked. Enable safe check. Especially those of us who have smart TVs connected to our network, and then we're going to run the scan, including our smart TV. Enable safe check before you start knocking down your TV. Please, enable safe check, because it's like, if the system, if the vulnerability scan send a scan command to scan it, and then it's not reaching it, right? Enable safe check meaning if you send a ping 3 times, no response, leave it alone, go, right? It means the TV is not responding, it's not online, or it doesn't respond to ICMP protocol. Just leave it alone, move to the next TV. But if you disable this, let's say if I uncheck it, it means I'm telling the system, I'm telling the Nessus scanner that even if you don't get a response, keep dosing the hell out of that machine until it responds. And guess what? You're gonna break that machine. It's like keep pinging, keep pinging. The machine has no sense, right? You are telling it, keep pinging. Even if you have to ping the whole day, keep pinging until somebody responds. That can break your machine. So always enable safe check. It means it has a default. If you scan it, if you ping it for 3-4 times, no response, leaves it alone, it's like considered not online. It moves up, move to the next one. Make sense? So always enable safe check. It says stop scanning host that becomes unresponsible during scan. Well, the enable safe check will take care of that, but you can add that If they are not responding, which means the scan has killed it already. If it does it, and then now it's not responding. So we don't want to do that. We don't want to scan IP addresses in random order. We just want to do it in the order. Slow down scan while network is detected. So these are some of the things: network timeout seconds, maximum simultaneous check per host. So upgrade the versions. All right, so this is it. Safe check, and then we go to the credentials. For home network, you don't have to do anything on the credentials, right? I can explain it, but we don't have time. You just have to leave it as is, right? So the home, this one is what? SSH. If you see SSH, secure shell, right? It means the SSH is secure shell. It means Linux. See secure shell, always think about Linux. It means the Linux server box that needs root privilege. So which means if you want to run this machine, you have to get a root account from the admin and then the root password, and then you enter it, right? So when I click on this, you're going to see that it's asking me, what is the authenticated method? Is it password? If it is password, Kerberos authenticated automatically. Then I type in Linux, the super user is called root, and then I type in the password. So now if I have that in my environment, that is going to scan it. But guess what? We don't have that in the home networks environment. So this, you don't have to worry about that. When you go to, let me close out of this. When you go to Windows, Windows is the same thing. If you have a Kerberos authenticator or password authenticator, you are the admin, you put the administrator, you put the administrator password. And then the domain that has that password, the domain means what? The server name or the server IP address, you can put it there, right? But we don't have it, you just leave it as is. And this one here is another protocol, SNMP, Simple Network Management Protocol. Simple Network Management Protocol. Number one. Oh, with SHA-256. SHA-56. That SHA-256. That is the latest. So SHA, you didn't do the week 2, right? With me. Yeah. So the SHA is what? Secure hash algorithm. Secure hash algorithm 256. That is the standard. So you have SHA-1, SHA-2, SHA-3, all the way to, I think the standard, the latest one is what? SHA-256. Right. Yes. It's what? Secure hash algorithm. It's used for what? To check integrity. It's used for integrity checks. Yeah. All right. So now moving on. So okay, simple network management protocol, right? So this, if you are in the environment, you need to manage your devices. How do you manage your devices? You should know the make, the brand, the version number, and everything. This will tell you all the devices that you have on your network. If you choose the simple network management protocol and you enter the port and the username and the authenticator password for that server, it's a server that manages everything, all the devices that we have in the network, right? So if you put that authenticator in there, it's going to run all these devices, and it's going to give you the report, the version, the make, what it is, all the devices that you have, the name of the devices, the vendor, the version, the year, and all that. That is what this is doing. It's giving you everything that you need to know about everything that you have on your network. It's a management protocol, right? Simple network management protocol. It manages all the devices on the network. Was that? Yeah, 161. For the most part, they run on 161. The port is always 161. All right, so we're just going to delete this. We don't need it. Now the big one, the plugins. This is what is, even if you don't want to do anything, you leave everything as default. You just give your name, the settings, you go here, and then you put your, this basic information, and then you can run straight to the plugins. That's enough. This scan is still going to run. It means you left everything as default, and it's still going to run perfectly. This is the most important thing here, the plugins, right? So how do you do the plugins? Remember I told you the plugin is a what? It's a program based on what? Nessus attack languaging, scripting language, right? So first of all, we're going to have to what? Disable. See the disable here? We disable everything. And now everything is disabled. So now that we've disabled everything, now we're going to go from top to bottom and see what plugins is applicable to whatever we have on our network. Remember, not all the plugins will be applicable to your network. If your network doesn't have database, why would you leave a database plugin in your network? It's just going to waste time. My network doesn't have database, why should I run for database vulnerabilities? Make sense? If my network doesn't have database, I shouldn't have database plugins running at the same time because it's just going to waste. It's not going to find any database to report, right? So first of all, you disable everything, and now you go from top to bottom. Everything that is applicable to your network. Let's go AIX. AIX is a version of a Linux. If you don't have that in your environment, if you don't even know what it is, it means you don't have it on your home network, right? You just leave it. Backdoors, you want to check for backdoors. You want to see if someone has placed a backdoor at any of your machine that you have no idea, right? So you click on that. You enable it. You go down. CentOS is a version of Linux. If you don't have it on your environment, leave it alone. CGI abuses. Anytime you see CGI abuses, it's checking for website vulnerabilities. If you're not hosting any website in your home environment, leave that alone. CGI abuses, cross-site scripting. The XSS means cross-site scripting. This one here, cross-site scripting. That's for website. If you don't have it in your own environment, leave it. Cisco, if you don't have any Cisco network gadgets, router, firewall, leave that alone. Database, if you don't have database in your home, do not enable the plugin. You're just going to waste the plugin because it's not going to find any database to check for vulnerability. Debian is another version of Linux. Debian, that's where Kali Linux sits, right? If you ever run Kali, it's a Debian distro. Denial of service. Yeah, just want to see that if you want, but 50-50, you might not need it. DNS, if you don't have a DNS server, yeah, maybe we do in the router, in our home routers, we can enable that. Our home router definitely has a DNS server, right? So F5 network local security checks, another Linux environment. Fedora, it's another Linux environment. We don't. I'm gonna lose everything. Yeah, type in the new password. Authenticate again. Authenticate again. So it means you have to move fast. That's what that says. Because I'm explaining, that's why I'm taking a lot of time. So we're going to go through policies again. And again, I'm not going to waste time again. I'm just going to go through it faster so we get our session done as fast. So we go new policy. You go to, you go to policy, new policy. We don't do that in the home network. But gain remote shell. When we say remote shell, it means if someone is able to gain a remote view of your computer, that's a shell. Your view of your computer from a remote is called a shell. If you want to say, if you want to see if someone can gain a remote shell to your computer, you check this one. General, always go with the general. Why not, right? It's general. We don't know what is in there. Let's see what it's going to see. And then all of these things, Linux, Huawei, another China big giant. I don't know if you guys know about them. They're making big phones. They're making routers now. But the big market is in Africa. Huawei, they have good phones, good routers. But their phones is being rivaled by Samsung and iPhone in America. That's why we don't see them a lot here. Trade war, remember that? But Huawei is good. Outside America, you see a lot of Huawei phones. And then the Junos is also, those of you with the MacBook, we want to enable this Mac OS, right? And see if you have any vulnerability on your Mac OS. And then you go to the miscellaneous. You want to check them and see. Network, not applicable. And then we have Oracle. Oracle is a database, right? We don't have all the Palo Alto network devices. No, we don't want to do that. And then Red Hat is another version of Linux. SCADA, remember we're talking about the overlay system like utility, those big utility like water processing plant, electric grid control, hazardous material plant, pharmaceutical companies, those are called the SCADAs. So if you want to run scan that involves those people, you always choose the SCADA, right? So you have service detection, settings, we don't have that. SMTP, now we don't have that. Remember, we talk about SMTP, right? Simple Network Management Protocol. If you have that, you want to check, especially when you have the credential for it and then you set it up, you have to check the plugin here. Solaris is another version of Unix. Back in the days, Unix, right? SUSE local, Ubuntu, Linux, those two. And then the web servers. So we're gonna select what? Windows, Microsoft Bulletin, and the user management for Windows machine, right? And then we're gonna go to where? Save. Oh, okay, sure. So we have backdoors, denial of service, DNS, firewalls, again, a remote shell, again, share remotely, general. We have Mac OS, if you have Mac OS on your environment, miscellaneous, got that?
Yeah.
And then you go to down and then Windows and all that. And then we save it, right?
Yes.
So now we save it. We save our, there you go. All right, so now we've created our policy, right? We created a policy, and make sure you can create multiple policies. You can create multiple policies, custom policy of your own. And then you can, but the only thing is that differentiate them with dates, so you don't get confused, right? Maybe home policy, the date, home policy, the date, so you know which one is which, right? Yeah, save it, yeah. Huh? Mm-hmm. No, the date, today's date. October 5th, 2019, right? So you don't get ourselves mixed up with the policy. All right, so now that we're done with the policy, now we're gonna run the scan, right? So you remember when we opened our first application, we went to policy, we click on new policy, right? So now that we've saved our policy, we're gonna click on my scan, and then go to new scan, right? My scan, new scan. Now you're not going to see, these are all the default, the one they created for you. You don't want to use any of those. You want to use the one you created. And you're going to select what? User defined. And you're going to see the policy that you just created. Right? And then you're going to select that policy. Once you select it, it gives you this page. And this is now you're ready to put in your IP address and you're ready to run your scan. Make sense? All right, so now we're gonna call our scan class policy scan, right? And then date it. So let it be the same as the policy, so you know exactly what policy is running what scan, right? Right? And then description. Class scan for 10/5/19, let me spell it out, right? And then it goes to, just leave it as default, my scan, that's the folder that everything is going to be stored in. All right, here is what the app comes to play. I'm going to show you something real quick because I used to teach this on Linux environment. Linux environment has a tool called the mmap. So I can use the mmap on the terminal and scan every devices on the subnet so I can see the IP address. Because if you don't know the IP address of the gadget, you cannot scan it. Scan is based off the IP addresses, right? But if you're not on the Linux environment, because the Linux provides you what? The mmap, network mapping tool, that's mmap. You can map your entire home network and then you see all the IP addresses, right? But if not, we have an mmap version on the phone, smartphone, right? It's called Fing, F-I-N-G. Fing. Look for F-I-N-G. Let me see if I can write it on top here. So we're gonna look for Fing. Online guys, go to your app store. Look for Fing, F-I-N-G, Fing Network Tool, right? Look for that. Once you download it, should be pretty fast, right? You find it on your iPhone? No, I think there was a problem with the iPhone like last time, but we were able to. Mm-hmm.
Use your app.
Yeah. You're gonna charge you. I think Bruno, they charged Bruno $2 last week. But we find out that you can go to Google search and find it and download it.
But yeah, for iPhone. Yeah, if they charge you for free. Yeah. So I think maybe it depends on the iPhone version.
But I don't put the app though. But I know it.
You didn't see anybody?
No. You'll see.
Oh, you sure? Because last week, Bruno got charged $2.
You'll see.
Yeah,
It's there.
yeah. Yeah.
It's taking back to the app store. Yeah, it did.
But you're gonna put a price on it,
I use my.
but it's not gonna list the price, right? Make sure it's not gonna tell you that it's gonna be paid. I don't know why Mac and Apple always have this.
It says in-app.
Yeah, in-app. And then what?
In-app.
Oh,
I downloaded it last time we did
it
it.
was free. You just need a version.
Like, how do you know you get billed?
They tell you the money right there. $2 and so whatever network, okay, so this is how it works, right?
Are.
Whatever network you are on, let's say you go home and then you are on your home network, your phone is connected to your home network, and then you run the scan, everything that is on your network, you see that. So you see, I'm on this one here, you see, it tells me everything that is connected to this network, and I'm seeing the IP address. So you see, so you can see everything, your printer, your mobile phone. So you see, everybody that is connected to Chrome,
Where's the place?
I'm not connected to the trade. I think it's information. Was it always
connected?
The battery is not going to
Yeah.
All right, so everything that is connected to the network, you're going to see it. So now you can tell the IP address, right? Are you connected to your Wi-Fi network? Available location. So this is Xfinity. All of this you see your right. So all the IP addresses are listed as 10.1.10. Those are the IP addresses of this. Likewise, when you go home on your home network and you connect your phones, your smart TVs, right? Everything that is connected is. Yeah, if you're not connected to your network, you're not going to see it. But if you're connected to a network, you're going to see all of that. Yeah, this one.
Where's the price?
If you didn't see the price, just give it a try. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
If you like, you never been there ever since last year. Yeah, right. Okay, so now are you connected to the Wi-Fi?
No.
Connect to the Wi-Fi first. Likewise, when you go home and you connect to your home network, every device on your home network will display. You see the IP address.
You just yeah.
So it makes sense?
Yeah.
Any question? Everything makes sense? So when you download the app and then you connect it to your network, your home network, the idea is being that you just want to see the IP addresses. Because if you don't know IP addresses, you cannot run the scan. So when you connect it to your home network, whatever subnet, remember we said subnet, if you want to scan, maybe you have a lot of visitors on your guest network and you want to scan, them, don't do that. But if you want to do it, you can be on your guest network and you run the thing, you see all the IP addresses on their machine, and then you can download, you can put the IP addresses here, right? And then you run your scan. So, but, yeah, all of these people are connected. Everybody here, you've seen the IP address. But again, do not put all these IP addresses on the scan. If you do that, you're going to be running your everybody's else. That's unethical, right? Ethical hackers. You don't want to do that. So you don't want to do it. So the only time you're going to use the thing is when you're home and then you want to run your home network. Run it and get all your IP addresses and you put it. So this is where you're going to put your IP address.
And use it.
Okay, if you go use it, when they catch you, you're in trouble. I don't know you.
So you open it. Yeah. And then everything will display, everything that you have here. All right, so Caps, I sent it back, right? Sorry, man. Yeah, enable the location, because you have to enable the location here. Yep. So are you connected to the school Wi-Fi here? If you're not connected to the Wi-Fi, you're not going to see anything. So this is only good on the subnet that you have.
You do like
If you put everybody's IP address, you're going to see the vulnerability that they have on their computer. And if you're a hacker, you can use that vulnerability to hack them. So don't do it. So, so that's what I'm saying. You know what we're going to do is that I'm just showing this. So we go home. You can do it on your home network and see all your IP, your TV, your smart coffee maker, your smart fridge, your everything. You can run it and see. And then if you start doing this, you realize that having smart stuff is not good, because you're going to have a lot of vulnerabilities in your life. You know, if you're a target, it means that a lot of people can just easily hack you through your coffee maker or your TV or whatever, right? So this is, so you see where it says the IP address here? You see here, it says example, right? It's giving you the IP address, right? So this is where we're going to put the IP address. But I want, those of you following, right, you can run your scan on your machine now. So how do you do that? You go here, you type in CMD. For the Apple guys, look for terminal, search with the lens thing, and then type terminal for yours. For the Windows guy, you do CMD, and then you do what? IP config. You will do IF config. For the Apple guys, you do IF config. For the Windows, you do IP config. See the difference? To see the IP address on your machine. Apple, IF config. If config. Windows, IP config. So you enter. So now this is going to give me my IPv4 address on this machine, on this computer right here, right? And guess what? My IP address is going to be different because I am not connected to the C3 on my computer. I'm connected to the, see that 4 seconds, 3 seconds, that's how long the response that back. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So you always look for that seconds. You see 3, 4, or 2. That's how fast the connection will start. I think millisecond. Yeah. Yeah. I think when you look at the metadata on top, it tells you if it is millisecond or actual second. MS millisecond. Yeah. So let's see. Why is this thing not giving?
No, I did that with my ignore.
F config. Can you work on YouTube? What else can I do? Let me see. ls.lh. All right. I'll take a look at this at the end. Let me, I'll see what's going on. All right. Let me see. I'm on a wireless. So it's actually this one here. I'm on a wireless adapter. Sorry. The wireless adapter is 192.1. Yeah, that 1.28 here. Now 1.28. Okay. So this is my computer, right? But when you go home, you have multiple IP address. If you have multiple address with your thing, you can actually see. And then the thing tool will tell you if it is a TV, your printer, your laptop, your phone, it will tell you everything, right? So you know exactly what you are scanning. So you're just going to do enter, and then you put the next IP address. That one, that maybe 30, the next one, and then likewise, you list all your IP addresses, right? Make sense? And then once you're done, see where it says save, you can just click on this little thing and launch. Or if you don't want to run it right away, you can save it. Now that you save your scan, if you want to run it, see where you go back to scan, and then here, this little play button is actually run, right? So I can launch it from here. If I click on this, it's going to start running. So it's going to run my vulnerability scan for this machine. But guess what? You know where when I put my IP address, because this is a free version, you can write up to 16 IP. Anything above 16 IP will not be scanned because it's a free version and you can only scan 16 IP at a time. Make sense? All right. So now that this is running, we can take a break. When we come back, we do the review. That is most important, how you review the vulnerability scan, how you make sense out of what you're seeing in the scan, right? Let's take a break and then we can resume when this is done. Okay, so I can just explain it, but it's already running. Okay. Yeah, so if I click on my scan, right? I already set up my scan already. I just have to go to put the IP address, and then you can run it from the bottom where you see.
So my question is, where the IP has to insert the IP address? You said before this.
All right, so let this run finish, and then I'll go because it's already started. I cannot stop it. Yeah. 30 minutes. So we go 12:38. Yeah. Sure. Yeah, definitely. Okay, so you can take a look at his, but I'll do it real quick. Oh, so when you to run the scan itself?
Yeah.
Okay, let me write that for you. So this is going to be https://localhost://8834. Yeah, this will print the scan for you. What is that?
Okay, go to.
Okay, hi.
There's nothing else in there. Out of there, because I was having my portion quickly just okay. So can I start at the break? Okay, going into the policy, then let's delete it.
I'll just call you back. But later on, you'll message
The online guys, can you guys hear me? All right, so this is how we're gonna run. We're gonna do maybe. Let's do the review. So now that your scan is done, so when I click on this is gonna give me the scan that I run, right? And it's giving me all the vulnerabilities, but I don't have anything. So this is blue. The blue means what? Informational, right? Which means there's nothing serious on my machine. And if you have a green is what? Low vulnerability. Yet the yellow one is what? The medium vulnerability, and then the orange one is a high vulnerability. The red is what? Critical vulnerability. So I don't have none of those here. Let me see from the previous scan, do I have anything that's gonna be the scan? All right, I don't have anything. All right. So if I click on this, it's gonna give me all the information on. So let's assume that this is just like the red, the yellow, the whatever it is, right? All of this scan. First, you go here where you see where it says the report, right? We have the HTML and the CSV file, and then the export. So what are the difference between this is this will give you a report, and then this one here is you exporting it into another SIEM tool, security incident and event management tool, like the Splunk, like ArcSight is a tool that they developed that, the tool actually does an in-depth analysis of the scan instead of having the human doing it. Make sense? So it's like I can export the Nexus in the file, and then I import it into the SIM tool, and then the SIM tool will do the analysis. Most organizations are doing that. They use that to create a scorecard with the exportation. But let's not worry about that since we don't have any tool to export ourselves to. So I'm going to go here and go to HTML and see how. Oh man, they used to give us a PDF version for free, but now we don't have the PDF version anymore. You have the option for PDF? Yeah, I'm using some old version here. Yeah, click it. Yeah, click the PDF and see how, and then I'll probably use yours for some explanation. And then you can have a custom report, or you have that option, custom or the executive summary. Right. So the executive summary is the summary you give to the high-level official of the organization. They are not technical guys. They don't want to hear all these technical jargons. If let's say the CEO, who is not a technical person, say, hey, can you give me a copy of the vulnerability scan? Do not give him the custom with all this technical jargon. He has no clue what that is, unless he's a technical person. But for the most part, if someone is requesting for a vulnerability scan and they are not technical, you give them what? The executive summary. Because you don't want to bore them with a whole lot of technical acronyms and stuff like that. So let's click on the executive summary, and then we do generate report and see how the report looks like. Yeah, so you see, this is what the executive want to see. Dashboard. How many critical do I have? 0. How many high do I have? 0. How many medium do I have? 0. How many low do I have? 0. And then the executive can go home and sleep in peace, right? He knows that his environment is clean, right? He doesn't want to know all the jargons. The only people that need to see the technical details of all the scan are the technical guys. That is, they want to remediate any issue. They want to see exactly what the tool is reporting. But for the big guys, the executive guys, all they want is a dashboard like this. What is the problem on a high level? They just want to see. That's what they care about, right? So when I go to show details, it can give me some few details. But for the most part, this is what the executive summary looks like. It just gives you the high level version of whatever it is the problem is, right? So let's go back into. All right, now let's go back and do the CSV. This is what the technical guys need, right? You go to the CSV. This can be exported into what? Excel, right? And then you can tell the tool exactly what else do you want. You can select as much information to display on that, because the technical guys need to see more detail, right? If they want to remediate something, they want to see the detail. So we click on generate. So I open this. See, it's a detailed report on an Excel application, right? Make sense? So now you can do some what you call a review, right? So let's say if I wanna, but there's some of the things that they're noisy, right? You don't wanna. The most important things are the plugin ID. You want to see what the plugin IDs are. What is the risk level? The IP address is just one IP address anyways. The protocol is probably not needed. You can delete that. Solution, because this is not a critical, it's not a real vulnerability. That's why we didn't see any solution. The solution part says what? NA, right? But if you have, let's say you have high, medium, and all that, they will give you the solution on this level. And this is what the technical guys want to see. So if I run a scan and then there's a problem, the scan will give them the solution. So you copy that and you give it to the technical guys, and then they'll follow the recommended solution and implement it on the system, right? So you have to know how to do some filter. So I think from the solution, right, everything else you can remove, just so you can make your scan look clean. This is how you do the analysis. So here, I'm just going to go here. I'm going to delete this. All right. So the most important item on the scan when you're doing a review is the plugin ID, the CVE. You don't need this. But again, all of these things that we're doing, the organization have the list of stuff that they want to be seen on the spreadsheet. So always go with whatever they want to see. You know, like I was saying, see also, maybe I'm going to say this is not needed for me, but also it depends on the organization. They'll probably tell you that we want to see that information, so leave it on your analysis. Depending on whatever they say they want in the environment, you are just an analyst, you obey, yes sir, and then you give them what they want, right? If they say we don't want, I just want to see plugin ID, the CVE, the RICS, the host, the protocol, and they tell you what, we don't want to see the port number, you know, you can delete that. Whatever they say they don't want to see on your report, just delete it. Whatever they want, leave it on the report, and then you push it out to them, right? This is how you do your analysis. And also, you can do the filtering. Make sure you know how to use Excel, right? So now if I want to do, I can put in a format as a table. So I go here and I do this. My table has headers. You know, okay, let's see. So now I just format, you know, I formatted my table. And then what else? You can also go back here and then you can put in the filter, data. You go in there and put in the, what is the filter, where is it? Oh, here you go. You put in a filter, right? Go back in here. Now we can sort, right? So you can do a custom sort. For the most part, they want you to do a custom sort, especially when they have what, critical, high, and a medium vulnerability. So here, you see where you say the sort on the home tab? You click on that and go to custom sort. Now you can create a custom sort for yourself or based on what the organizational requirement is. Because in any vulnerability scan, we have what? Critical, if the system is vulnerable, critical, high, medium, and a low, right? But probably they don't want the low. They want to concentrate on critical, high, and the medium. So this is how you set up your sort filter. You go in here. The first thing, no, before I go there, I just want to sort by the plugin and the risk, right? Mostly that's how you do the sort. So I'm going to delete this. I'm going to delete that. So I'm going to sort by the plugin. All right, so now go back into my sort and filter, custom filter. Now I'm going to set up my filter. So I go here. The very first one I want on my filter is what? The plugin. Where is it? Where is the plugin? Yeah, plugin ID. Oh, man, I need some more glasses, man. Okay, so smallest two. Now I'm going to go to the custom list. Now I'm going to add my list, right? Because vulnerability scan is based off what? Critical, high, and a medium. So I'm going to go here and I do critical, high, medium. But maybe they will tell you they don't want the low because low is just minimal. But if they want it, why not? We put it there, right? And then we're going to go to add. So you see my custom sort has been added now, right? So I click on that and I go to OK. So this is how I want my thing to be sorted. Okay. Using that memory to complete the extraction. Try less data. Come on, man. All right, cool. Because they're giving us a free version, but you get the gist, right? So, however, because I don't even have critical, high, medium on my system, but if I do, you realize that everything else will be removed. It's just going to be sorted according to critical, high, and medium. That's how they want it. Because the critical is obviously the most serious one. List that first, and list the high, and then list the medium. All right, so we go to sort and filter. You go to, no, first of all, we have to highlight this. Go to sort and filter. Go to custom filter. You select the plugin ID. You want to create a custom filter. This one, yeah, and then you select it's going to give us an error. I don't know because of the memory on the database, but that's fine. So at least you know how, but you can avoid this by saving this file. First of all, I think we should save it. We can avoid that. Let me try that. So I'm going to save this locally on my machine, so I don't have to go save it on the thing, so we don't get that error. I go here, probably going to save it on my desktop. Let me just save it on my desktop real quick. Results, desktop. All right, so now we have a local copy. So let's go back into the sort and filter the custom again. Hopefully we should not get that error again. Custom field, we have the custom one that we just made. Click OK. Right, so we didn't get the error. So the error was the fact that we were trying to save it on the Nessus itself. They didn't give us a lot of space, right? But if you buy it, you have a lot of space in the cloud. You can do whatever. But if you do it at home and then it's giving you the error, just save it locally on your machine and you can do the custom field, right? Custom and filter. So if I have, let's say I have under risk column here, I have critical, medium, it's going to be arranged in that order. That's the custom filter that I created for myself, right? And then when I move on, the synopsis, for the most part, synopsis is the problem. If they ask you what exactly is the problem with that plugin ID, you can go here and say it is possible to obtain the network name of a remote host, right? If you get my network name of a remote host, then so what? You cannot hack me. That's why it's informational, right? It's not a serious vulnerability. Right? So the synopsis, for the most part, gives you the problem. So when you see a vulnerability scan where it says the synopsis, that is the problem. Read the synopsis, and then you understand the problem. And then you go into the description. So now the description will tell you exactly what is going on. It said the remote host is listening on UDP port 137 and port 445, right? 445 is what? The SMB. If it is listening on that, yeah, well, I'm not connected to the server, so no issue, right? That's why it's informational. It's not a critical vulnerability. Now, the most important thing is, if it is a critical vulnerability, here you will see the solutions. So the solution is what fixed the problem. For instance, Ali has an issue that I just looked at. The solution was he didn't run some updates. So now they're telling him to go back and run his update, and that should fix it. So if we run the update now, everything, and then we rerun the scan, you're gonna see that the high vulnerability has disappeared because you fixed it, the problem. So this is why organizations are always running vulnerability scan to see if they're missing any update, and then go back and run the update, and then run the scan again. The goal is to have blue all the time you run your scan, which means your systems are not vulnerable. But if you don't run the vulnerability scan, you don't even know if you have any missing patches or missing update that you didn't run. And then you're sitting there, and then somebody will just hack your system without you know it. That's why vulnerability scan is very important when you run it. I have a Ubuntu server at home, right? So I created a file server where I store my information. I can remote log in into the server and everything. So it's been a while, you know. And then one time I ran a scan on it, and I saw a critical vulnerability. And it was in the night. Guess what? I didn't sleep that night because I was like, no, there's no way I'm going to go to bed with this critical vulnerability. So I had to run the patch, upgraded the whole Ubuntu server that night, rerun the scan, and then I saw that everything was clean before. So these are some of the things that when you start doing it, you realize that, hey, updates are very important. When your box is old, update it as you go along so you can get rid of all these vulnerabilities. I wish we had some high whatever so we can see exactly what that means, how we remediate it. But you understand the gist, right? Just know how to delete the noise. Whatever they want, they're going to tell you, like plugin ID, rigs, host, because Nessus is reporting a lot. But organization will tell you that we just need, on the report, we just want to see the plugin ID, the rigs, the host. The host is usually the host ID, the IP address of the machine. The ports, for the most part, these two, they don't even want to see. But I'm just leaving it here but they don't want to see this. They just want to see the plugin ID, the host, and then the name of the machine. So this is what the name of the service that was affected. And then the synopsis, description, and solutions. That's what matters. What is the problem? What is the description of a problem? And how do I solve it? That's what the technical guys want to see. And then they'll go into the server, boom, 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 run the update and fix it. And then you run the scan and give you, they rerun the scan and say, hey, here it is, we updated it. The new scan shows that everything is clean. Make sense? All right, so any question? So does any, somebody want help to run your machine?